Sonic X Episode 3. We start out at Eggman's island base with menacing music playing, and he sees Station Square through a camera. Impressively, he has a surprisingly menacing sounding voice for considering this is Mike Pollock. They're taking him completely seriously. And then they have him play slots to choose which robot to send out. That's a contrast. His machine has to be programmed in a way where once he hits one slot, the other two slots are guaranteed to match. Otherwise, he wouldn't ever get to send out a robot. Then we cut to Knuckles tediously insulting Sonic to Amy, because God forbid he fought Eggman. Though it was interesting that he actually points out Sonic's flaw that he literally does just want to get into fights. He's an anti-hero. But still, Knuckles talking about Sonic so disrespectfully is just annoying. He did Amy a favor by walking off on her. Then we see some humans at a beach get threatened by a giant mecha. Considering that, it took way too long for them to start screaming. It took until after the mecha fired some missiles for them to start screaming and running away. Then we see Tails cleaning the biplane with a hose. I thought what he said here in Sonic F was pretty funny, where he had the biplane take water damage so they can make money off insurance. Can biplanes really take water damage? I mean, I would think they would be more well built than that. Then the heroes worry about the fact that Sonic ran off without them, and Chris thinks he's in danger and says they have to bring him back right away. Again, I loved that in Sonic F, his face looked so apathetic when he said that, and they lampshaded it. At least him being clingy and lonely is a genuine personality flaw they're trying to make him more interesting with. For a generic human kid, you could do a lot worse. Then our time is wasted as, go figure, we're told that Eggman's mecha is too powerful for the normal military. It's immune to their fire, and even after the cops surrender, he attacks them anyways because he doesn't like quitters. That's so him. I love that character moment. He'll take any excuse to be a dick. I think Chris looked silly trying to call out for Sonic in a totally empty place though. Why did he expect Sonic to be there? If Sonic was around, he would have immediately made it obvious. And I loved Chuck's comment in Sonic F, where he just said that they have been calling in the same place for hours. So far, this episode seems like nothing but wasted time. Sonic wastes time running around a mountain. What's he even expecting to accomplish? He needs a hobby. I guess exploring is his hobby, but still. He could at least say that he's trying to look for the Chaos Emerald. And Knuckles and Amy waste a huge amount of time. Like, go figure, Knuckles used to guard the Master Emerald. I do like the character moment where Amy wishes she could have a casual conversation with Knuckles, and she awkwardly tries to have one, being a good friend to him. It's relatable. But I'm surprised she's still walking right beside Knuckles. I thought he tried to go off without her, but she's that lonely, I guess. Anyways, the mecha makes people run around in fear. At least there's something slightly interesting where two people have to carry away someone because they fainted from the sight of it. This is great for making Eggman look threatening. Like, I didn't think he'd be anything but a stupid joke in the show because he's modern Eggman and he's too lame to have even one city to himself. But they're at least trying to take him seriously. He introduces himself to the world with a holographic message, and he arrogantly says he plans to take over the world. Why is the cops general wasting time telling him to pull over and show them his license and registration? Didn't he see his mecha? The mecha sends something at the cops to merely cover them in soot, and they're able to talk perfectly fine. Is this show trying to be realistic or not? They would have died! Anyways, there's at least some humor here, as the cop leader awkwardly says that he'll have to run it by the mayor because he's not calling the shots here. After Chris shows he's smart enough to at least wear a helmet, the mayor shows that he's both gutsy and ridiculously stupid, as he says he won't be blackmailed into humoring Eggman, and of course Eggman sends a missile at him and covers him in smoke. Then the mayor tells him that he legally can't surrender the city. Is that realistic? I mean, his life is being threatened. Anyways, after Eggman considers just destroying the city and building another city out of it, Tails' plane shows up and Eggman tells his robot to blast it out of the sky. So it's not a mecha, he's in the Eggmobile the whole time, and that was made the most obvious when the robot talked in a robotic voice. Tails says its armor is too thick, and the robot sends something at the tornado too to make it start falling. But that was just artificial tension, as instead of it realistically crashing, Tails is able to switch the plane to another mode entirely and be just fine. Then Amy runs inside and goes into an elevator, causing Knuckles to run after her because he doesn't want her to get hurt. That did show off his sense of moral responsibility. Like, he may be a dick about Sonic, but at least he still cares about Amy. He cares about something other than just a big shining rock. That's good. Then Sonic sees camera footage of Eggman threatening the biplane, which conveniently has a close-up of Tails when he's flying it, where the footage isn't too blurry for them to see who's in it. Then when Knuckles catches up with Amy, she runs at a robot and totally fails to damage it with her hammer. Realistically, she even feels in pain afterwards, the realistic result of trying to do that. But it makes her hammer look really ineffective. And Eggman tells his robot to squeeze her while he threatens Knuckles. Maybe I should make a count of every time Sonic's friends were useless in Sonic X. Eggman assumed Sonic didn't survive when he got to Earth, only to randomly, out of nowhere, get paranoid that he did, looking left and right, which does make sense since he had to deal with him for so long. Sonic shows up and gets a ring from Tails, Amy falls and Knuckles catches her, and Sonic somehow spin dashes up and down a building, which is physically impossible. At least Sonic Underground explained Sonic flying because he had a medallion. Sonic then jumps on top of the robot's hand every time it sends it out at him, taunting him every time. He makes the robot hit its own arm, and the robot fires some missiles to cause an explosion in the sky, just for Sonic to come out of it unharmed and spin dash into something so hard that it causes an explosion. This leaves Eggman covered in soot instead of dead from being exploded on. The show doesn't know whether to be realistic or stupid. And why is the Eggmobile flying around in a wonky circle just because it's burned? I mean, if it's damaged, wouldn't it just fall out of the sky? Amy then hugs Sonic, saying how worried she was about him. And the soldiers' idea of thanking the heroes for driving off a terrorist who threatened to take over the city is to try to shoot them. Tails' plane sends a ladder down to save Amy and Tails, and Knuckles isn't scared of the guns for some reason and just stands there for a while, which is much stupider than in Sonic F, where he was naturally really scared and completely changed his tune. Then Knuckles lets go of the ladder and turns around in mid-fall and glides away. That was quite different from Sonic F, where reality ensued because he couldn't catch an updrift of air when he was falling straight down, because that's not how he glides. And Sonic was completely sociopathically apathetic to Knuckles falling to his death. But here, Knuckles is taken completely seriously the whole time, which really impressed me. They're actually trying to portray him as a serious badass rather than a complete joke. But he'd be more of a badass if he beat the mecha instead of Sonic doing it pathetically easily. How did he survive being in the middle of an explosion again? I guess he was high up enough to dodge it. But when he crashed back down, you'd think he'd get killed from the fall damage. It has to be that the solid ring has some residual effects keeping him invincible for a while, because otherwise he'd have long gotten himself killed by now. This episode, after a long time was wasted on padding at the start, was about Eggman threatening to take over the city with a robot with extendable arms and missiles, only for the people in charge to refuse to surrender the city no matter what he did, until he decided it'd be easier to just destroy it and build his own city from the ruins. It struck me as pretty confusing that the mayor couldn't surrender a city to Eggman. He's the mayor! His city's about to be destroyed by a giant robot. I mean, if Eggman just got the city, we could have seen how he would run the city, and it would be interesting. But I can imagine the first thing he would do is make it illegal for Sonic to live with Chris, and so he wouldn't have any place to live. So that would suck for him. But at least we wouldn't get the focus on Chris anymore. At least Eggman would be a genuine, competent threat rather than just acting like it. Instead, he doesn't get to rule a city at all. Either way, Knuckles and Amy waste our time, and they never do anything worthwhile because Amy just ends up getting in danger and Sonic hogs all the glory. At least him being given a ring kinda justifies why he would have survived crashing into the robot in a spin dash from such a height. But you'd think the ring would have scattered away from him after that. Even the first issue of the Sonic X comic got that right, because when Tails got hit, the rings he had scattered. This episode was impressively good at having tension, portraying Eggman as a big threat. It's like this episode's plot in this whole show was inspired by the idea of, what if Eggman tried to take over a real city? And it was doing a pretty good job at portraying that for the most part, at least until we got to the point where missiles were fired at some cops and the mayor and them survived just fine. There's not much to say. Chris and Chuck did nothing. Tails just gave Sonic a ring, making me really wonder why Sonic doesn't just keep his ring in a backpack, like in Sad AM. And Sonic shows what an aloof, not at all social person he is in this continuity, because he just runs off from his friends to run around a mountain for no explained reason. There's a lot of padding in this episode, but it was still pretty good.